Madam Chair, Commissioners, Lead Council, audience, viewers out there, good morning and welcome to the daily proceedings of this Commission of Inquiry into Local Government Councils and related matters. Madam Chair, may I now yield the floor to you for our next item on today's agenda. Over to you, Madam Chair.
Good morning to you all. I would like to call on Honorable Sila to lead us in Muslim prayers and Honorable Joyner to do so in the Christian prayers.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين ورثا واسعا مباركا وأمر طيب وسعة البدن اللهم افتح قلوبنا بعلم أعوذ بالله من شر النساء ومن شر الشياطين والسلطان الله برمت اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق والقاتم لما سبق الناصر الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره ومدار عظيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما صلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين آمين.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you for the gift of life. I'm grateful for your abundant grace and mercy. Thank you for watching over us and our families throughout the night, blessing us with thy divine health to go through this beautiful day. Father, I commit our lives of this day into your hands. I ask that you lead and guide us by your Spirit in every step along the way. Your wisdom to make the right choices and decisions that will bring glory and honor to thy holy name. As we step out, we do so in faith, hoping and believing for the best. Our doors of opportunities will be according to your will. I declare that we are protected on every side and kept by the power of God. No evil shall befall us. Our going out and our coming in is blessed. I declare that all our expectations for this day may not be exceeded. I pray that we will also be a blessing in the life of those we come in contact with this day. Thank you, Father, for the answered prayers and making this day a glorious day for us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you. Registrar, can you call in the witness, please?
Good morning, Mr. Witness. Welcome back. Please sit down. May I remind you that you are still under oath, Mr. Witness, before I pass the floor to Madam Chair for continuation of our proceedings. Over to you, Madam Chair.
Good morning, Mr. Sanyang. You're welcome back. May I remind you that the commission starts sitting at 10. Please, tomorrow endeavor to be here before 10. Thank you. Council, can you please proceed?
Yes. Good morning, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable Commissioners. Mr. Sanyang?
Yes.
We were treating the report for, is it 2020? 2020.
2020-21 joint.
2021.
Yes.
Yes. Can you please turn to page 20 of the said report? Are you there already?
Getting there.
The heading is Pre-Qualification and Registration of Suppliers Observation.
Yes.
Yes, so your report mapped out the list of suppliers that did not register in accordance with the GPPA Act. Is that correct?
Yes.
So you have one for the Jalo in relation to construction of Soccerway.
Yes.
The amount is $1,000. You have one Mohammed Mahmoud for detergent, $50,000. Do you see that?
Yes.
And Shiloh Enterprise for cartridges for $9,000.
Yes.
You have Halal Company fuel for $2,000. Kode Danjo catering for $18,000. Do you see it?
Yes.
And you have Shiloh again Enterprise for office furniture. There's a description. The amount is $113,000. Now you have Next Level as the payee. They supplied stationery for $6,000. You have Keba Jata, maintenance of vehicle, $17,800. Idrissa Jallo, cement, $17,000. And Mamadou H. Jallo, borehole materials, $79,260. Now, we discussed the implications in relation to having suppliers that are not registered. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can you please just briefly take us through that, the implications?
The implications.
Yes.
1. Non-registration with the authority is interpreted as a probable failure to pay taxes or tax since GRA tax clearance is a prerequisite for GPPA registration. 2, it is potential loss of revenue to government, in particular the authority.
Yes. So upon drawing out this table in relation to the list of suppliers, when you turn to page who did not register with GPPA, when you turn to page 21, you have under compliance. I'm not sure whether those who write this report keep on making these basic errors. You have that the PO has ensured all contract award suppliers were registered with the authority in line with Section 24 of the Act.
Yes, I have seen that.
What does that mean? Is this applicable in this situation?
It's not applicable because already the list is there showing that contracts are awarded to suppliers who are not registered with the authority.
Very well. Needless to talk about the issue regarding pre-qualification procedures. That in Basse, we see they don't even conduct in any of the situations.
Right.
Yes. So, but then let's discuss the management response. What did the management respond in relation to your findings?
For the registration of the suppliers, Kode Danjo, Next Level, and Idrissa Jallo are all registered for the others. Efforts are in high gears for them to also to register as dictated by the Act and regulations.
So in essence, they are saying that, well, only 3 individuals did actually register with GPPA as far as they are concerned.
Right.
But then when you go with respect to the further comment, this I believe is the comment in relation to the response from the management's position. And that the further comment from GPA is that, in fact, there is no evidence of registration of Kode Danso, Next Level, and Idrissa Jallo. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
So what they were saying is actually not true, it's wrong, as far as GPPA's position is concerned.
That is what they said. During our review, it was discovered that contracts were awarded to these people even though they have not registered with the authority. And for their further comment, we also have a list of suppliers. We have a list of all registered suppliers. So when we have issues like that, yes, we sometimes verify from them, but when we come back to the office, we also go through the list and verify. And when that was done, it was confirmed that these people, at the time of award of contract, were not registered with the authority.
Exactly.
And according to the law, registration is mandatory prior to payment.
Yes.
So even if registration is done after payments, it's a violation of the Act.
Yes. Another important or interesting part of the response, the management response for Basse Area Council, is when they said on the second line, efforts are in high gear for them also to register. That is for the ones that they are saying have not registered. I am a bit confused by this when they are supposed to, are they not supposed to make sure even before they deal with these suppliers, they are in fact registered with GPPA?
Of course, for this one, I think the issue is very simple because they have accepted that they were awarded contract even though they have not registered with the authority.
Yes.
So all what they are saying that they are making efforts to register them.
But that's my point.
It's already a violation. They have already violated the Act.
Exactly.
By awarding them contracts when they were not or yet to be registered with the authority.
That is true, but we have already established that point. My other point is, now it appears as if they are making the argument for the suppliers that they don't register with GPPA. My position is, again, you can correct me if that is not the position, but then before a public institution deals with any supplier, is it not the responsibility of the public institution to make sure that the suppliers they are dealing with are in fact registered before they even deal with them?
You are right.
Yes, so for them to be arguing on behalf of the suppliers that efforts are in high gear, it means they are the ones, they are doing everything possible probably to make sure these suppliers are in fact registered, which is not their business.
Perhaps that can take care of future transactions, not this other one. Already the Act is being violated.
I am even looking at the possible conflict of interest here. When you are supposed to, because in procurement, there has to be this degree of transparency and independence. You're not supposed to give any kind of heads up to suppliers for them to make sure that they, when you are giving them businesses, you are awarding them contracts unlawfully in contravention with the Act. And now when you are being told that they did not register, even though you ought to know, and I would believe that you have known that they didn't register, you are now helping them to register. That in itself, in my opinion, would probably be conflict, because every procurement should be subjected to, generally, competition.
Right.
So if you have a preferred supplier, then you will defeat all other future possible procurement that may be done, because you have people that you have targeted, you are trying to aid them to even follow certain processes.
You are right, because the registration is mandatory before a contract is awarded. So during the evaluation, if it is discovered that they have not registered, obviously, up to the time, and they are about to award the contracts and have not registered, obviously they should be disqualified and the contract be awarded to another supplier.
On page 22, with respect to specifications, what was the findings for the year 2020-2021?
Page 22.
Two, yes.
Specifications. During review of the procurement proceedings, we observed that some procurement solicitation documents had no technical specifications that were in accordance with GPPA Act, Section 25, 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Now, what is the implication of that?
Now, specifications clearly define what a procuring organization wants in terms of requirements and so on and so forth. So if specifications can also be a basis for evaluation. So if items are not specified, number one, how do you determine whether they are fit for purpose? Number two, even if for example, there is competition, on what basis do you select a supplier that you think suits your, or in other words, is responsive to your requirements? So it's going to be very difficult. At the end of the day, you have no basis for evaluation, and most likely your award decisions may not be justifiable.
Or in fact, to use the more direct word, your award decisions may be biased.
Right.
But then they responded again. They said it is very clear to PO now any procurement of goods, works, and services, specifications should be generated, and now efforts are in place for SPU to establish that at all times. We now want to assure the authority we will do to the best of our ability. So here they are guaranteeing or taking a position that they in fact agree with you, and they will make sure that they follow due process in relation to specification.
All right.
But the interesting part is, in fact, are they in a position to even follow all these laid down procedures? Because they don't have a structure in place for this.
Yes, they don't have the structure.
So how can they follow these requirements as per the law when you don't have the structure in place? You don't have an SPU technically, because you only have one individual who acts as the procurement officer, but there is no team or unit in relation to procurement. And we see that everything is being under the finance director. Is that not correct?
Right.
Now, please turn to page 24. 1.8, you will see contract management.
Yes.
When it comes to contract management, what were the main problems that your team came up with or they found on the ground?
Now, if you look at the non-compliance issues,
yes.
One, inspection and acceptance committee are not, or committees are not established as part of the contracts management procedures in contravention of regulations 127 and 128.
So the inspection and acceptance committee we have discussed are the very committee that will inspect the goods or the items that are being delivered to make sure that they are in line and they are fit for the purpose.
Right.
Yes, so they don't have that.
They don't have that.
How about the suppliers' performance reviews are not carried out to inform future improvements of the suppliers on completion of their deliveries as required by the regulations? So can you explain that further, please?
Actually, there is if in normal circumstances, of course, as we said, there should be a proper contract management system. So
Yes.
at the end of the day, it's either done satisfactorily or not satisfactory. So in such a case, you have to complete a form called Form 030
Yes.
to assess the supplier's performance in all contracts. So if that is not done, obviously we assume that there is no proper contract management system in place. And that is very important because one, you are to verify that the contract is correctly executed, and two, it also serves as a future reference for you in case you want to award a similar contract to the same contractor. You can always refer to the performance or the past performance and be able to determine whether the contract will be done correctly or not. Or if the same contractor is sort of eliminated, you can have a basis to say that a contract was given to him or her, but he didn't perform to expectations.
Now, what is the next point?
No evidence of contract management team in place.
What does that mean?
Now, as we discussed the previous days, for every important project, it is expected that a team is created to manage the contract, to ensure that whatever is being done is done in accordance with specifications or requirements are met, and so on and so forth. So in this case, Basse Area Council, we don't have any evidence to show that there is a team established purposely to manage their contracts.
Now, the last point is no contract document in place, especially for the procurement of fuel.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Now let's turn to page 26. With respect to the to chapter 3, with respect to the specific findings, page 26.
Yes.
Now the first is the maintenance of
Vehicles.
in 2020, right?
Yes.
The amount is $5,600. The award contract to Lyman S. Ture is single source. What are the compliance issues?
The procured item was not part of the procurement plan as stipulated in Regulation 25(1) of the GPPR and Section 29 of the GPPA Amendment Act.
And then the other one?
The quotation was not approved by the Contracts Committee, and the last one is GPPA Form 100 is not attached.
Please turn to page 28. The procurement of fuel, the amount is $200,000. Do you see it?
Yes, yes.
And our contractor is Ja Oil.
Yes,
The procurement method is single source,
yes.
and there were so many non-compliance issues. Please
Number one, the procured item was not part of the procurement plan as stipulated in the regulations. And two, the procurement is above the threshold of single source. Three, there was no minute of the Contracts Committee meeting as stipulated in GPPR and the Gambia Public Procurement Amendment Act. And the last point there is GPPA forms such as 100, 003 were not administered.
So 200,000 of public funds were also spent without following any process, without having approval from any contracts committee, without it being in the procurement plan.
Right.
And it is way significantly above the threshold.
Right.
The next one is the procurement of stationery, $25,475. To next level stationery. The method is RFQ, request for quotation. So,
Yes.
Are there any non-compliance issues?
Yes, you have the non-compliance issues. One, the procured item was not part of the procurement plan as stipulated in Regulation 25 and the Act. There was no inspection committee to inspect the goods as stipulated in Regulation 153 or 133 to 136, and also GPPA forms such as 101 and 1 or 2 were not attached.
Now, let me just understand the issue regarding delivery receipts or note. Now, when the supplier delivers these goods or these items, do they deliver them to the inspections and acceptance committee?
That is how it's supposed to be.
Exactly. Because it is at that stage that it is either supposed to be accepted if
Right.
it is in compliance with the specifications and everything,
Right.
or the purchase order also.
Right.
Or they may in fact reject those goods at that stage if it is if it does not if it's not in line with what they actually purchased.
Right.
So, for example, you ordered laptop and for a certain capacity, but then what you were delivered was way below the capacity that you intended to purchase.
Right.
You understand?
And if you look at the system, it's designed in a way that there will be checks and balances. So
Yes.
that you have the procurement officer responsible for, in collaboration with the end user and the like,
Yes.
will be responsible for the specification and drawing requirements and the like. So when it comes to receipt, there should be a different body to ensure that what is being specified in quantity, in terms of quality, and so on, the delivery, whatever is being delivered, is in accordance with what is being specified.
Exactly. So that technically it will be fair to conclude that if you don't have an inspection and an acceptance committee on the ground for a certain purchased item or goods, then you don't really have you may not have a valid delivery receipt. Will that not be a logical conclusion?
Well, you may have a delivery receipt, but the delivery may be done to a wrong
Exactly.
unit.
That's what I mean.
Because even if the procurement officer receives the good which is not right,
Yes.
he may still be given a receipt for that.
That's what I'm saying. So if you, the committee that is supposed to, because like you said, the idea is to have proper checks and balance.
Right?
So that the committee that is supposed to conduct a particular function, if they don't do it, the same way we have contracts being approved by or being procurement being conducted by people outside the SPU.
Right.
Even though technically you have procured a certain
Exactly.
item,
Yeah.
but that does not make it lawful.
Right.
That makes the entire procurement invalid.
Right.
Yes, so the same thing with the delivery receipt or the delivery notes as well.
Yes.
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 Now, Mr. Mr. Sanyang, my question is, we could take it as that the POs use the finance officers or the CEO as the delivery and acceptance committee. Is that the practice, having gone through the reports and having seen what is on the ground?
I think
If
that
I may come back to the question, that is to say, we have seen that in all true, there are no delivery and acceptance committees. So would it be fair to say it is either the CEO or the finance director that acts as the acceptance and the delivery committee? When they do their procurements, these are the people that receive the goods, endorse, do whatever they are supposed to do.
right.
Is that correct?
Yes, you are correct.
Thank you.
In fact, in addition to that, Madam Chairperson, for Basse Area Council, you will even realize further that even the function of the procurement officer is subject to the approval of the finance director, because it is directly under the finance director. Is that not correct?
Correct.
So the procurement officer, the finance director, and the CEO will probably be working together to make sure that they just procure whatever they feel like procuring without due regard to any regulation or any requirement, and that's it. So there is no committee, no contracts committee, no inspections committee. They just don't follow the rules entirely for all the years that we have been discussing currently. So now, the other part is the drilling of borehole. What is the amount?
The amount is $3,421,740.
And the
awarded
contractor?
to Jariga Camara.
And the method?
Single source.
So $3,421,740 was being single sourced to Jariga Camara.
Yes.
And of course, naturally, there will be so many non-compliance issues. So can you please tell us?
One, the procured item was not part of the procurement plan. 2, there was no receipt attached. 3, the procurement is above the threshold of single source. And the final point is the supplier is not registered with the authority as stipulated with Section 24 of the GPPA Act.
Now, again, with respect to the compliance column, we have the contracts committee approves the said procurement because minutes of the meeting is attached. In fact, we see that for Pasig Area Council, they don't even have a contracts committee because they provided a list of the CEO, the finance director, the procurement officer, but these people were not even being appointed. They were being appointed verbally for the year under review.
According to the Act, the appointment of members to this committee should be by way of writing. So
Exactly.
without a letter, appointment letter, one cannot establish that they are members.
Now, what is the response of the management when it comes to the award of the contract for the drilling of borehole for the amount of $3,421,740 to this to one Jariga Camara by way of single source?
According to management, the procurement was above the threshold of single source and also not registered with the authority, but it was based on offer. He did for us due to the financial situation of the council was done. Financial situation of council. We don't have the availability of funds, all required to execute these projects, but he is from the region and have a stake in the development of this area.
Is this a very convincing justification?
It's not acceptable. It's not convincing.
In fact, to start with, you don't even have this in the plan in the first place.
Right.
You spent almost $4 million of the area council's funds, public funds, for a certain procurement that is not even being cared for in the procurement plan.
Right.
So now you don't even bother yourself to even seek for approval for any of these technically, and then the reason that you're giving is the fact that it was based on an offer.
Right.
Yes. So, but in addition to that, in fact, to now come and say the council was in financial crisis, when you are spending council's funds, that's the management. You are spending council's funds at will, without following any regard. How do you expect a council to have even $1 to spend for a day when you treat council's funds as your own personal funds? You don't expect the councils to even be rich for a day.
Actually, given the amount involved, it is far above the single source threshold. So
Exactly.
this means that should have been subjected to GPP approval before they proceed.
Exactly.
But even that, with this justification, approval would not have been given because, but in principle, this procurement should have been subjected to competition, and then the offer that they are talking about, that they don't have sufficient funds, now there could be a payment plan and all conditions laid, and subject it to competition, open competition. Then whoever want to offer a similar thing, gratis or whatsoever, would also, probably if it is competed for, they would have even got a better offer than this.
Exactly.
So it was not subjected to competition anyway, what it should have been.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Yes, Mr. Sanyang, you just said something about gratis. But what we are looking at here is that this particular contractor, Jariga Kamara, was paid $3,421,740 to dig a borehole. And the management responded that because they did not have money, and that is why. My question is that in the management response, you could see that they said they needed funds to execute these projects. But what we cannot ascertain from the report is whether this $3,421,740 was for the digging of one single borehole, or whether it was for the digging of more than one borehole, which is not listed, and we cannot infer from the report that it is a series of projects. So what we could safely conclude from this report is that Jariga Kamara did a contract for Basse Area Council and was paid $3,421,740 to dig one borehole. Would I be correct to make that assessment from the report?
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, Council, you can proceed.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairperson. That brings us to the end with respect to the review for the year ending 31st December 2020 to 2021. If the commissioners have questions, we will take them before we proceed to the final report for Basse Area Council for 2022.
Yes, I have. Please go back to page 29.
Page 29.
Yes. This is with respect to the construction of Basse Sandika in 2021. The contractor is Mohamed Saliuba, and the amount involved was 70,000, and the category is services. We have noted that there are some conflict in the or contradictions in the compliance section and the non-compliance section, because under the compliance section you have point 2. It says the quotation was not approved by the contracts committee and is under the compliance column. Did you see that?
Yes, yes.
And yes, that was what I wanted to highlight. And the other issue we have challenge with is the last point, which says that the above procurement was approved by the contracts committee. And having gone through, which I believe council has really solicited information from you, which you have provided, that throughout the course of these transactions, there were no contracts committee. So to now put the contract, the fact that there was, you said the above procurement was approved by the contracts committee, is that not a contradiction?
Well, it's a contradiction. The reviewers probably are considering those three people as provided for by the Act. That is the head of the institution, the CEO, the budgetary officer, and the procurement officer as a contracts committee as provided for by the Act. But as we said earlier, it is not legal, because the contracts committee members should have been appointed by way of writing an appointment letter to be part of the Contracts Committee. So the Contracts Committee is not legal because members are not appointed through.
So it will be correct to assume or to conclude that there was no Contracts Committee.
Correct.
Thank you.
Council, may I just take
Yes.
a few minutes? Mr. Sanya, according to the Local Government Finance and Audit Act 2004, it is stated that the Contracts Committee should consist of the following people: the Chief Executive as the chairperson, the Director of Finance member, Director of Planning and Development, 2 elected councillors to be appointed by the council, and 2 members of the public to be nominated by the minister. In your entrance meeting, do you first look at the composition, where even you say there is a Contracts Committee? Do you verify it against this list that has been provided by the Act, that these are the people who should form the Contracts Committee? I know for some cases you say there are no Contracts Committee, but I am saying where there is a Contracts Committee, have you verified whether the composition is as stated by the Act?
Now, that may take us back to we can make reference to their entry meeting or entrance meeting at the beginning of the report, and again verify those members that were met. Exit meeting. Now, on page 5, there is a table that shows those members or officials that were met during the entry meeting. And these are one, Fode Danjo, who is the chairman. You have 2, Usman Ture, who is the CEO, Lamin Suso, Director of Finance, and Mohammed Jawune, who is the Procurement Officer. Now, for us, of course, it's also very important to make reference to other laws and the like, but our operations as an authority are guided by our own act. We have a GPPA Act that we use. So when we go, of course, we should not tell them the people that are SVV, but these are the people that we met. And as per our act, the members of the Contracts Committee, although we have verified that it's not legal in the sense that they are not appointed as expected by the law, but you have the CEO who is the head of the institution, and the law provides that the CEO is the CEO is the chair to the Contracts Committee. 2 should also comprise the Director of Finances, and if you look at the label there is this Lamin Suso, who is the Director of Finance. And then you have Mohammed Jawune, who is the 3rd person. So these are the 3 key members, or permanent members of a Contracts Committee. But again, let me say that this is illegal because they are not appointed by way of providing them with appointment letters to these positions.
Just a follow-up question. The alignment of what your authority is saying should be the composition of a Contracts Committee and that of the local government, whereby these institutions are answerable to have a same wording, Contracts Committee. Don't you align the composition of these people to be in line with your institution. Like you've mentioned the chairperson of the area council to be a member of the contracts committee. In your reading of the entry meeting, you mentioned the name of the chairperson.
Yes.
Of the council itself to be a member. But here, it doesn't state that person is a member, should be a member. It says the membership should be the CEO, the Director of Finance, Director of Planning and Development, 2 elected councillors, and 2 members from the public nominated by the minister. So don't you think there is time now for us to start aligning some composition of membership so that there will be no confusion as to who and who should be a member of a committee? Because really, you are reporting to a body that will have scrutiny over your reports. And one of the things we have just picked up is that the chairperson of the area council should not have been a member of the contracts committee. But here you, in your own authority, you are saying, or I'm not saying you're saying, let me take it back. You have indicated that the chairperson of the area council is a member of the committee, which makes it contradictory to what the act is saying, and thus makes it illegal if any decision is taken. Because by law, he should not have been a member of the committee. Are you in agreement or in disagreement?
Disagreement.
You are in disagreement with my statement?
Yes, Honorable.
Okay. What should it be?
According to the Act, the Contracts Committee should comprise 3 key members. These include 1, the head of the institution. 2, you have the director of budgets, and 3, the procurement officer. These are the 3 key members. But the membership can be more than that, depending on the nature, the scope, the complexity, and whatever transaction that you want to do. So in this case, we have the 3 permanent members. Although we have all confirmed that probably their membership is not legal, but we have the 3 key members. So according to the Act, other members can be co-opted when the need arises, and I assume that these other circumstances, the chairman being a key member or an important member in the area council, he or she together with other councillors can be co-opted as members of the Contracts Committee.
Okay, Mr. Sanyang, but let me read for you the Local Government Finance and Audit Act 2004 on page 12. It says procurement. All procurement by a local government authority shall be carried out in accordance of the GPPA Act of 2001 and the monetary thresholds and regulations prescribed and by and under the Act. Each council shall be a procuring organization for its area, subject to the Gambia GPPA Act of 2021. The composition, this is the Act telling you who and who should be there. It is not you as an authority going into the organization to say, since you are the chief executive, since you are the chairman, you are an important person, so you have to be in the contracts committee. He was eliminated by the Act. And the Act says, shall consist, or each council, contracts committee of each council should include the CEO, the Director of Finance, the Director of Planning, 2 elected councillors, and 2 members nominated by the minister. This is not what you are saying now. This is what the Act is telling you to observe. And if you find something different, it should be noted as different. But not to say because I'm the chairperson, I'm a member of the contracts committee. that could nullify or that could have influenced the others to go the way that they see you are voting. That's why they were eliminated, because they are elected. The chairperson is elected, but the others are appointed. So they can, the transparency business would be reflected in the decision making. They could not be influenced. Do you understand what I'm getting at? So therefore, you need to align your act for the composition of who and who should be in a contracts committee, because this is the governing body of the local government areas. You are coming from outside, imposing your own contracts committee. So that would bring the distortion or the misunderstanding that anybody and everybody could be appointed or elected to be in the contracts committee once you are in favor of it. You as the oversight, you are in favor of what they are doing. If you had said no, the chairperson should not have been, and you write it down as non-compliance. Non-compliance, the chairman was part of the committee, he should not have been in the committee. But you are endorsing that the chairperson should be because he's a key person in the organization. You understand what I'm trying to get at?
I'm listening keenly.
But you don't understand.
And I understood what you are talking about.
And you don't agree?
I still don't agree.
Okay. we beg to...
Can I come in again just to make clarifications? Honorable, I did indicate that we are an authority established by an act of parliament. We are provided with an act that guides our operations. All our operations are in accordance with what our act provides for. It is very clear in our act that we should have 3 members as key members. And it is clear that you can co-opt other members to be members of the Contracts Committee. And it is based on these principles that, of course, we agree that the Contracts Committee may be illegal, but if it is legal, they have the 3 key members. And they have more than 3 members who are co-opted as provided for by the GPPA Act. And in the Local Government Act, of course, I don't want to go into detail to that, but it is mentioned that the minister can nominate 2 members. It is possible that the minister can nominate the chairman when the need arises to be a member of a contracts committee. It's all possible. Because those people that should be nominated by the minister, they are not mentioned specifically. He can mention, he or she can nominate. But I just want to say that our operations are guided by our act, and I don't want to go into detail into the Local Government Act and so on. But then one important thing is, yes, it is important that we always align them. That is very important.
Okay, just to make some clarification. The minister cannot appoint or nominate the chairperson because it is specifically stated 2 members of the public. It didn't say the chairperson. It says 2 members of the public, meaning those who are not within the organization, ordinary citizens that have knowledge or have capacity to decipher or to sit in meetings of procurement could be nominated by the minister. So that eliminates the notion of the minister can even nominate the chairperson to sit in a contracts committee. As we had agreed to disagree, I think we will leave it to the experts to look at it. Okay. But I think there should be some alignment.
That is sure.
As to the composition of the contracts committee with your authority and that, because all he's saying is also quoting the GPPA Act of 2001.
right?
So can I just find out from the witness, according to the authority, who are supposed to be the members of the contracts committee for local government councils?
Now, our act generalize, and we don't have separate provisions for different institutions. Generally,
Okay.
according to the act, we have 3 key members, and others can come in when the need arises to give technical or expertise advice when this is needed.
So who are the 2 key members that your act?
According to the act, it should be the head of the institution, which when you go by the table, the CEO is part of it. The CEO is on the table.
So could you please just direct us to the specific provision that says that it is the head of the institution that needs to be in the committee?
Composition of the contracts committee in GPPA.
Okay. So it says the contracts committee shall be staffed with personnel who are well informed concerning public procurement and whose professional qualifications meet the requirements that may be established by the head of the procuring organization in accordance with the guidelines to be issued by the authority.
Yes.
Council, can you kindly refer us to which of the legislations?
This is section 48 of the 2014 Act. So
Thank
that was
you.
subsection 1. And subsection 2 says that the head of the procuring organization or head of the accounting unit, or where there is no designated accounting officer or his or her representative, shall chair the contracts committee. So that is talking about who will chair the committee.
Yes.
And it doesn't say that it has to, it says the head of the procuring organization or the head of the accounting unit, and if there's no designated accounting officer, then, or where there's no designated accounting officer or his or her representative shall chair the contracts committee. So it seems to be saying that either one.
Yeah, a contracts committee shall be staffed with personnel who are well informed concerning public procurement and whose professional qualifications met the requirements that may be established by the head of the procuring organization in accordance with the guidelines to be issued by the authority. The head of the procuring organization or head of the accounting unit, or where there is no designated accounting officer, or his or her representative shall chair the contracts committee. So the first point is talking about the chair of the contracts committee. Now you have the second point, appointment of other members and staff to a contracts committee shall be in accordance with the guidelines established by the authority. And the guidelines here will be established in the, of course, we expect them to be in the regulations.
You expect them to be what, sorry?
In the regulations.
Okay.
A contracts committee shall consist of at least 3 members. At least 3 members. And shall include, in addition to the chairperson. And who is the chairperson here? We've already noted in 1 above that is the head of the institution or his representative. If in case he cannot, he can delegate. So the chairperson is the head of the institution. in addition to the chairperson. An account officer, and in this case is somebody responsible for budgets, the director of finance, and in some cases you have the accountants and the like, is the second member. Or any budget profession, a secretary, and in brackets you have head of the procurement unit. And this is what my argument is. So these are the 3 key members, okay? And any other person familiar with the substance of the procurement, if available. So apart from these 3 key members, if they feel that there are others who can provide expertise, or others who are very influential and think that they can, of course, play a very important role in whatever they are doing, they can co-opt them.
Okay, so you agree that the GPPA Act is general and it relates to, and it applies to public institutions that are listed in the Act?
That are listed in the Act.
Yes, so procuring
Yes,
organizations is defined in the
as-
Act.
Yes, as far as our Act is concerned, is for procuring organizations.
Yes,
and
it's for
these are organizations that deal with public funds, including the local government authorities.
Exactly. Now, you also know that there's legislation that's specific to local government councils, and it doesn't apply to other types of procuring organizations.
Right?
Right? And the provisions in the legislation that is specific to local government councils may be read in line with your Public Procurement Act.
Right?
Right? So Commissioner Joyner was pointing out what the Local Government Finance and Audit Act says should be says the Contracts Committee of a local government council should be composed of.
Right?
Right? So I believe he referred to Section 18, was it, of the Local Government Finance and Audit Act?
Section 18.
18, yes.
18, yes.
So this provision is saying that all procurement by a local government authority shall be carried out in accordance with the Gambia Public Procurement Act and the monetary thresholds and regulations prescribed by and under that act. Now, at the time that this act was passed, the act that was in force for procurement was the 2001 Act. That has now been repealed and replaced by 2014 and then 2022 Act. Right. So for that provision, it's saying that each council shall be a procuring organization for its area. So now your act is saying that it is the
head of the institution.
The head. But then the head of the institution. Okay, that's for the chairperson, that's fine. But then this is saying that each council is a procuring organization.
Right.
So what council are you dealing with? So say Basse Area Council is the procuring organization for Basse.
Yes.
Now it says, subject to the GPPA Act, the composition of the Contracts Committee of each council shall include the chief executive as chairperson. So this is in line with your act.
Right.
Okay. The director of finance, which is also in line with your act. The director of planning and development. 2 elected councillors to be appointed by the council. Now the council is the general council for Basse Area Council. And 2 members of the public to be nominated by the minister. So this portion, the 2 members of the public to be nominated by the minister, is reference to the GPPA Act that was in force then. So further, it's saying that the members referred to in paragraphs D and E of subsection 3 shall serve for a term of 2 years, may be reappointed for a further term only. Right? So this is not going against what your act has said. They can be read together. Now, the Local Government Act itself, which governs all the local government councils, provides for how their committees are to be established. right? So Section 34 of the Local Government Act says that a council, which is the General Council, shall establish the committees referred to in Part 4 and the following other committees. And it lists finance, establishment and appointment, development, and such other committees as the council may deem fit. Each committee shall consist of such members of the council, which shall not be more than 1/3 of their number, and such other persons as it shall determine. And then the term of office shall be determined by the term of office of the committee shall be determined by the council. Now, the Local Government Act was passed before the Local Government Finance and Audit Act. So the Finance and Audit Act is complementing the Local Government Act. The Local Government Act has already established that it is the council that establishes its committees. So even though the Local Government Finance and Audit Act has set out the composition of the committee, of the contracts committee, it is only the council that can establish the committee. Do you get what I'm saying? So I don't know whether the confusion was about whether it is the chairperson that should set up the committee or it is the council. I'm not sure what brought about the...
Council, let me just come in here. I think the misunderstanding is the terminology of chairperson. At one stage, the witness is, I think, I might be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, the chairperson is being referred to as the chairperson of the council,
Right.
instead of the chairperson of the committee.
committee.
The chairperson of the committee is the CEO.
Yes.
The chairperson, if you just want to say chairperson,
So the
it
council.
could be referred to as the chairperson of the council. That's
Yes.
why I'm trying to bring that clarity.
Right.
That the clarity is that the chairperson of the committee, not of the
Council. Yes.
of the committee, which is the CEO
CEO.
or the head of the institution.
Yes.
I guess.
That is right.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And just, I done? Yes, just to add on what Council has said, I believe that it is important that when you sensitize the councils, you must read your legislation in tandem with all legislation that are relevant to these councils and that have direct correlation with what your mandate is. This is to avoid conflict of interpretation, and this is to avoid confusing the councils as to what they are supposed to do. Because at times they will refer to the act, at times they will refer to the, they have their act, they have the Finance and Audit Act, they have the GPPA, and in all of these legislations there are provisions that have been provided for some of these committees, how they are to be set up and their compositions. I believe it's high time when you do your sensitization, you bring on board all the relevant legislations so that they have a proper understanding of what they are supposed to do. Failing which, you will be running in circles because they will not be able to follow due process because, they are in doubt of some of the provision, or they may not even be aware of what is provided for in other legislations that they must comply with. Thank you.
May I just add, in addition to that, I think it should be borne in mind that you're not the only institution that's auditing these councils. So where you have raised in your compliance report that they're not complying with the issue of contracts committee because it is not the chairperson of the contracts committee, it is not the CEO that's appointing the members. If they follow that, when they have other obligations under the Act, that it is the council that needs to establish the contracts committee, say national auditing, they usually raise these issues and they bring it out that it is not the council that set up these committees, and so they're non-compliant in that regard. So if they have that, and then they also have your report saying something different, it brings some confusion because which one do they comply with? And they'll be flouting one either way. So as the chairperson said, you need to read all of the legislation together in tandem to know what is what.
Council, you may proceed.
Yes, can you turn to the compliance review for the year ended 31st December 2019? In relation to Masakonko Area Council?
Twenty
2019.
Yes, 2019.
Yes, so in the entry meeting, can you please run us through the names of the individuals, members of the council that you have met?
Number one, Mr. Passet Sise, who is the Chief Executive Officer. Mr. Landimbi Sane, Chairman. Mr. Baba Trawale, Procurement Officer. Mr. Bai Jibi Sala, Finance Director. Mr. Ibrahim Sedili, Procurement Assistant. And you have the other members of the GPPA review team. So
how about on page 6, with respect to the staff directly involved in the review process?
Page 6. Yes, staff directly involved in the review process. These are Baba Trawale, Procurement Officer, Bai Jibisala, Finance Director, and Passet Sise, Executive Director.
Now, there were findings in this, on page 6.
Yes.
Can you please run us through those findings?
During the interview with a staff of SPU, we observed that interference in procurement processes is very high. We further observed that there was only one staff at the SPU for the first 6 months of the year, which was heavily affecting procurement operations, considering the volume of procurement transactions conducted daily. In addition, the team further observed that SPU is under the Finance Department for the first 6 months of the year.
There were implications therein?
Yes.
What were these implications?
One, procurements may be individualized for personal gain since there is lack of proper control and supervision on the side of SPU.
Please turn to page 7. You have a table with respect to the total procurement proceedings and their values.
Yes.
Can you briefly explain to us?
Like the other ones, open international 0, nil, open national tender nil, 2-stage tendering nil, request for proposals nil, restricted tendering nil, single source, there were 495 single sources. That is about 98.02% of the total population, amounting to 2,280,996.64. And that constitutes about 82.41% of the total value of single sources. Then you have request for quotation 10 transactions, and that is 1.98% of the total population, amounting to 486,850, constituting about 17.59% of the total value of the RFQs. And the total number of transactions amounts to 505, and constituting about 100%. And the total amount of procurement is 2,767,816.46 1.64, and that is 100% of the total value.
Now, on page 8, there was a review with respect to the structure and the organogram of Mansakonko Area Council. And then there was a finding in relation to the management structure. Do you see it? Page 8.
Page 8, that would be mandate of KMC, sorry.
Mansakonko Area Council, under chapter 2, mandate, role, and council of Mansakonko Area Council. Yes. So you have conducted a review in relation to the management structure.
Okay.
Yes. So what were the findings with respect to the structure of the council?
Mansakonko Area Council seeks to attain its vision by promoting equitable and sustainable socio-economic development of communities through relevant...
No, just please, not the mandate, the findings.
Vision, mandate. Council structure.
Yes.
Okay. The council did not provide the review team with the council's organogram. Findings. The team was not provided the organogram of the council to ascertain the independency of the procurement unit. So in most cases,
yes,
we look at the structure and then be able to establish how the specialized procurement unit is established under which department it belongs to. But in the absence of the structure or the organogram, it's going to be very difficult to establish with proofs.
Yes, so for the better understanding of everyone, what is an organogram?
An organogram is the explanation, sort of how an institution is structured.
The different departments,
links,
the different units.
In different departments with links, how communication is transmitted from one individual to the other.
So in simple terms, it deals with the management structure.
Exactly, yes.
Of an institution.
Yes.
So you are saying in Mansakonko Area Council, you could not be presented with any.
Yes.
So therefore, when you or your team went to conduct a review, you wouldn't know whether there is, in fact, XYZ department, whether there's a finance department, and so on and so forth.
Exactly, yes.
So whatever you will be presented with on the ground is what you will have to deal with.
Yes.
Is that not the case?
Yes.
Now, but then there were still non-compliance issues.
Yes.
You said we further observed that the procurement unit was under the finance department, the same with Basse Area Council.
Yes.
And that also, there are implications with respect to that. What are the implications?
Procurement unit being under the finance department may lead to conflict of interest. There is a risk that the procurement unit may not be independent in their operations. The procurements may be delayed. Very
well. You have explained all these points in previous dealings with Basse Area Council and the others. So now, let's just move to page 10. With respect to the functions of the accounting officer. Now, there were also non-compliant issues raised by the review or the report in relation to the functions of the accounting officer.
Yes.
Please run us through the non-compliant issues.
There are non-compliant practices that were identified during the compliance review. And these are: one, the accounting officer did not appoint members of the inspection and acceptance committee as required by the Gambia Public Procurement Regulations 62, 63, 64, 66, and 67. Two, the accounting officer did not ensure that some prior approvals were sought from GPPA in some tenders. And the last point there is the accounting officer does not ensure that the procuring council properly document proceedings and manage a record in accordance with the Act's Section 35(2) of the GPPA Amendment Act.
Now let's talk about the SPU for Mansakongo Area Council. That is the Specialized Procurement Unit, which comprise of two people. Number one, Baba Tarawale, the Procurement Officer, and number two, Ibrahima Seidi Lee, the Procurement Assistant. Now, when you turn to page 12, there were also
Council, before
six.
Yes, before you proceed, I have something on page 10.
On 10.
Yes. Mr. Sanyang, the report have highlighted the non-compliant issues, which are 3 points. And the first point made reference to particular sections of the Act, which is 62, Section 62, 63, 64, 66, and 67. But before I proceed to ask my question, is there any difference between the Delivery and Acceptance Committee and or Inspection and Acceptance Committee? Are there any difference?
Delivery and
Acceptance Committee and Inspection and Acceptance Committee.
They are the same.
They are the same.
They are the same committees.
Okay. If they are the same, kindly tell us how you relate Section 62, 63, 64, and 66 as being a non-compliant issue. Because if we take it from the bottom, Section 66 is saying request for information by authority. Did you see that?
Section
66. You know, point 1 under the non-compliance.
Yes.
Is referring us to particular sections of the Act which the Council did not comply with. Right?
Yes.
Yes. If we start from the bottom, Section 67 is talking about investigation of procurement proceedings.
Yes.
And Section 66 is talking about request for information by the authority.
Yes.
Yes. And Section 64 is saying exemption from personal liability.
Yes, yes.
And Section 63 is saying disposal to employees or board members.
Yes.
And Section 62 is saying disposal by public auction.
Yes.
Yes. So I want you to kindly explain how these are related to what your findings are.
Actually, for the first one, 62 and 63 are about disposal. And according to the Act, disposal of public assets is also very important. That is part of the procurement procedures. Now, and as such, the Act clearly defines how asset disposals of public assets.
No, Mr. Sanyang, if I may interrupt at this point, I think the reasoning from the report and from the preceding paragraphs is about inspection and acceptance.
Yes.
And I have asked you to tell me the difference between delivery and acceptance, inspection and acceptance. You say is one and the same. And if that is the case, what the function of inspection and acceptance committee?
Yes.
Does it incorporate disposal? And does it incorporate exemption from personal liability, etc., which are the provisions you have highlighted?
No, Now, if you look at Section 1, the functions of the accounting officer, that is what they are talking about.
No, we are not talking about the accounting officer. We are talking about the inspection and acceptance committee. That is what this is saying. He said the accounting officer did not appoint members of the inspection and acceptance committee as required by this section. So obviously anything that is being said and any provision of the law that is being referred to should have correlation with what is being said on point 1. That is my issue.
If you listen to what I am about to say, probably you will understand what I want to say. Number 1, you are looking at the functions of the accounting officer. And part of the functions of the accounting officer is to establish certain committees, including the inspection and receipt committees, including the appointment of members of an asset disposal committee.
Refer me to the law which says it is the accounting officer that is supposed to appoint that committee.
Let's look at the functions of the accounting officer.
Now, Mr. Sanya, if you cannot see it, I will allow you time later on to, to come back to that. Maybe after lunch when we come back, you look at it properly and refer us. But just to, my question is to refer us to the provision that says the accounting officer should appoint the inspection and acceptance committee.
Okay.
Now, the reason why I highlighted or I made, I'm asking you to look at these provisions is with view to highlighting that there may be wrong referencing of the sections. This is the purport of my question.
I think it's good observation.
Thank you.
Because when I look at the 60-something, 61, those ones, 61 and 62, those ones are about the asset disposal. And asset disposal committee is also, a committee should be set for that. That should be established by, I am seeing the 64, 65, and so on as wrong referencing. But the other one, 61 and 62, is about asset disposal, which, of course,
has an entirely different committee to deal with it.
Exactly.
So this is why I wanted you to explain and to look at the law and to indicate that it is wrong referencing. Thank you. Council, can you proceed?
Yes, on page 12, With respect to the SPU,
The,
12.
okay.
Now, we note that there is a specialized procurement unit. We have already outlined that there are 2 members of the SPU.
Yes.
Now, there are about 6 requirements that they did not comply with. Can you please take us through the non-compliance issues?
Number 1, the SPU does not prepare and submit to the authority reports requested under the Act and regulation.
Number 2?
Number 2, the SPU does not coordinate the evaluation of
Quotations
the evaluation of quotations received
from the suppliers. Number 3?
The SPU does not ensure that the suppliers sign the purchase order prepared. Mansakonko Area Council does not include the evaluation criteria in solicitation documents, Form 101, sent to the suppliers in some procurement transactions during the year under review. And the SPU does not liaise with the authority on matters relating to the disposal of assets. And finally, the head of the SPU does not act as secretary to the Contracts Committee.
Now, the implications therein are, 1, the transparency of the procurement process could be compromised.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Actually, you have the SPU, and the role of the SPU is clearly defined and so on, that they are wholly and solely responsible for procurement, collecting quotations and so on and so forth. Now, if the SPU, if you look at the non-compliance issues, if these are all things that the SPU is not doing, meaning that it must be doing by someone, and it's a wrong procedure. So if that is the case, obviously, it's flouting the principles and principles of public procurement.
Now,
so notably the transparency and so on will be compromised.
Now, please turn to page 13 with respect to the functions and the composition of the Contracts Committee for Mansakonko Area Council.
Under findings.
No, page 13.
Yes, page 13.
Yes. So, what is the composition of the committee, the Contracts Committee?
Paset Sise, Director or Admin, is the chair. Mr. Bai Gibi Salah, Director of Finance, is a member. I have number 3. Dandembi Sane, Chairman, also a member. Mr. Baba Tarawale, Procurement Officer, who is Secretary to the committee. And then finally you have Mr.
CDC
Diba, Chairman
so
of the Finance.
For Basse Area Council and for Mansakonko as well, we see that the political head, the chairman, is in fact part of the Contracts Committee.
Yes.
And we know that the Contracts Committee is primarily responsible for approving all procurement activities.
Right.
Now we will get back to that. But then again, these appointments were not made in accordance with the Act. Were they?
No, they are not.
Under findings, you can
Yes.
refer yourself to findings where it states that the following members have been appointed verbally to be members of the Contracts Committee.
Yes.
They
yes.
did not provide any formal appointment of the Contracts Committee as required.
Right.
Now, turn to page 15. The issue regarding compliance with respect to evaluation reports by the contracts committee. Here you have a contracts committee that is not formally appointed, and then also they don't even carry out their functions as dictated by law. So we have the first point: there is no evidence of evaluation report by the contracts committee and no indications that individual scores were awarded by each evaluator. The second point, the authority has not established the evaluation committee as required. I think it's more of a repetition.
Yes.
So, but what is the essence or what is the importance of the evaluation committee?
The evaluation committee is the committee responsible to look at the offers from the various suppliers or contractors after having solicited bids from them. Now, it is the responsibility of the evaluation committee to look at the requirements, look at them carefully, and evaluate them based on a criteria that must have been set forth in the bidding or solicitation document, and then select the one that they think is more responsive to their needs as the winner. And then from there, the procedure will continue. They are expected to generate a report, which shall be submitted to the contracts committee for consideration.
So they don't have an evaluation committee. And if you turn to page 16 again, there is no examination and receipt committee as well on page 16. Are you there?
Yes, yes.
Now, on page 17, what is the analysis of the table with respect to the total number and value of procurement methods?
The table shows the total transactions by procurement method and by value of Mansakonko Area Council for the year under review. And on the table you have open tender or open international nil, have not conducted any open international, they have not conducted any national tender, open national tender, they have not conducted any two-stage tendering, they have not done any request for proposals, and no restricted tendering during the period under review. Now, they conducted about 495 single sources amounting to 98.02% of the total single sources, the total transactions. This amounts to 2,280,996.64, which is about 82%, 82.41% of the total value of single sources.
Now, all of these transactions were approved by members of the contracts committee, including the chairperson of the area council. And these individuals were not formally, or their appointment did not follow due process. None of them.
Yes.
Now,
correct.
Is that supposed to be a normal procedure? Don't you see any conflict there when you have certain individuals who ordinarily may not be members of the contracts committee? Let's say the chairperson, now being a member of the contracts committee without any formal appointment.
Of course there is.
Please turn to page 18.
18, yes.
The procurement organization, you said, has maintained a comprehensive and individual file for each procurement activity. But however, the entire procurement files reviewed are incomplete for some files when contravenes of. Sometimes
incomplete for some files, which supposed to be, I think, which contravenes GPPA section or GPPA Act section 35(2). There are no receipt and delivery notes, and in some instances, no GPPA form, no goods received notes attached in the procurement file, notwithstanding the files are marked with the relevant PV numbers.
Mr. Sayang, I think your office should really work on how you review and approve some of these reports. I will say when you have maybe junior officers writing reports, and then it goes all the way to the top, and it is being approved. It does not tell well for your institution. You will see so many errors, especially typographical errors in these reports.
Noted. Yeah.
Now, so there are no delivery notes or receipts. In some instances, no goods received notes attached. And so the implication you said is proper assessment of procurement record is a challenge. The absence of delivery notes from the suppliers may lead to wrong quantity of supply.
Yes.
And the lack of receipts in the procurement file may imply that the procurement is not complete. What do you say the procurement? What do you mean when you say the procurement is not complete?
Now, when payment is effected and you have not seen any good receipts, note, or payment is done without receipts, one cannot conclude that, of course, the money paid, the items paid for are being supplied. And even if they are supplied, whether the supplies are in accordance with what is being prescribed or specified.
Now, was there any management response?
No management response.
Now, point 9 on the same page, the procurement planning. You will see that there was a procurement planning with respect to Mansakoko Area Council.
Yes.
Now, when you turn to page 13, you will see that they complied with their annual procurement plan in accordance with the Act. But then, there seemed to have been an addendum with respect to the procurement plan for the year under review. So just look at the non-compliance issues. The adjustments that were being made.
Yes, the council made major adjustments in their procurement plan, but was not communicated to the authority as required by the Act and regulations.
So in this situation, they have a procurement plan.
Yes.
And the whosoever made adjustment to the plan decided to incorporate some projects in relation to procurement, but it was never approved, and they went ahead and then conducted procurement on those.
Right.
Council,
Yes.
Can you please provide us with that plan? Thank you.
Now, turn to page 20. Where you have some of the suppliers who did not register with GPPA and were awarded contracts.
Page
20.
Yes, there is a list of suppliers that are awarded contracts, even though they are not registered with the authority for the...
Please tell us the name of the suppliers,
the
description, and the amount that they were awarded.
One, the contractor was Usman Sonko, training under the description of the services, training on ward planning processes, and the amount involved is 26,775.
All right, the next one.
Soma filling station, fuel was
Yes.
supplied amounting to $17,000.
The other one?
Diba oil, fuel, again $17,800. Faber and Sons for 2 solar panels amounting to $7,000. Nabi Technologies, maintenance of office computers amounting to $1,000. Flat screen TV was bought from B Electrical Enterprise amounting to $27,650. Falu Seku for spare parts amounting to $4,000. Modu Seluba, 10 packets of floor tiles amounting to $2,250. Sidibe Enterprises, 20 chairs for chambers, $10,000. Ibrahima Sediba, ID cards for Mansakonko Area Council staff, amounting to $7,800. Kansu Kante, plumbing materials, amounting to $5,500. Ture Enterprise, engine oil and battery, amounting to $7,800. And Jangudo Ba Soap for 4 crates of drinks, amounting to $2,200.
So all these individuals or these businesses were awarded contracts for the year under review, and none of them registered with GPPA.
Right.
So we had the same problem with Basse Area Council as well.
Yes.
And one of the issues that you raised in relation to the implication is that this will cause serious financial loss to government.
Correct.
Because then they don't pay all the necessary taxes that they are supposed to pay.
Correct.
Now, can you turn to page 22 with respect to SMEs, small medium enterprises?
Page 22.
Yes.
Yes. Supporting the SMEs.
Yes.
And preference and reservations.
What are small medium enterprises?
These are small businesses. They are categorized. Businesses are categorized, and these are groups of businesses that emerge and are probably struggling to grow. There are a certain category of businesses which are small in nature.
So you were asked by one of the commissioners yesterday, if I recall correctly, that how about the women that sell in the market? So is this program supposed to be targeting those women in the market, for example?
Yes, they fall under those categories.
But what is the finding in relation to Massaconne Area Council with regards to SMEs?
The PO did not have any specific program in place as a way of supporting SMEs and has not applied preference and reservations in its procurements as provided for in the GPPA Act, Section 36, and GPPR, Section 24.
In fact, the interesting point is they seem to have no plan whatsoever or policy or program for small medium enterprises or small markets, for example. One would be for women in the market or women doing various businesses to support their families. But then they still deal with individuals. individuals in their day-to-day procurement, individuals that do not even register with GPPA. For example, you have on page 20 the table that we reviewed earlier.
Yes.
One Usman Sonko was paid $26,700 for training on ward planning process. You have also Momodo Saliu Bah supplied 10 packets of floor tiles at $2,500. And you have one Ibrahim Sediba, ID cards for MKAC staff. So how do they select or identify these individuals when they don't have any program for that? Will this not encourage biasness?
Sure, it can.
So do they have any response to that?
No response.
Now, on page 23, the formation of contracts, point 17.
Page 20.
Page 23.
Yes.
You said, we observed that Mansakonko Area Council has filed the GPPA Form 102, which served as the contract document for request for quotation procurement, but the supplier does not sign the document. Now, can you explain what you mean by, or whether, or what is the requirement of the supplier signing Form 102?
Now, this form is a legal document and is meant for agreeing to a certain contract between a supplier and a procuring organization. Now, the form will explain the contractual terms, delivery, quantity, and so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, the supplier must sign agreeing to those terms of reference. So in this case, if this form is prepared and there is no signature being appended by the supplier agreeing to the terms of reference, may definitely show that the documents are not binding. Without signatures, the documents may not be binding.
That's only one possible logical conclusion?
Yes.
How about the issue of falsification of documents as well? The figures, trying to come up with any figure?
Exactly, yeah.
Can that not be
yes. Can also
another
be
possible?
yes.
Yes. Now, and again, there was no response from the management. How about the issue of monthly reports? You will find monthly reports on point 19, the same page. Were they in compliance with their obligations to submit monthly reports?
Non-compliant. They have not submitted monthly reports to the authority as required by the Act and the regulations.
Why is it important to submit monthly reports?
Now, monthly reports...
You can turn to page 24. Yes, go ahead, please.
Monthly reports are a way of informing the authority or reporting to the authority those procurements that were not subjected to its prior reviews, the single sources that were conducted, and the request for quotations that were conducted, but were not submitted to the authority for prior approval. So this means that if they are within the threshold, they can proceed. But at the end of the day, this should be reported on monthly basis to the authority so that we have them in our records and for other purposes.
Now, for a better understanding of the importance, now you have procurement transactions within a certain threshold can can be approved by the procurement authority that is in relation to the institution under review.
Yes.
So the contracts committee for that procurement organization will have to approve those transactions.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Now, the law does not mandate them to request for approval as long as it is within $500,000 or below.
Yes.
Or thereabout.
Correct.
So now, the monthly reports.
Sorry.
Please proceed.
Clarification.
Yes.
You mentioned about the $500,000.
Yes.
That is the ceiling for RFQ.
Yes.
Request for quotation.
Yes.
But the
Single sourcing.
But the ceiling for single sourcing is $20,000
$20,000
for goods and services and $30,000 for simple works.
Yes.
So anything more than that threshold for works and services
Yes.
should be subjected to the authority for approval, not the 500 for. I just wanted to make that clear.
So it is only in relation to the single sourcing?
Yes, it could be $500,000, yes, but including the RFQ, up to $500,000. But for single source, it should not exceed $2,000 for goods and services and $30,000 for, $20,000 for goods and services and $30,000 for simple works.
Yes.
Anything more than that should be subjected to the authority's approval before.
Now the point here is within the limit of the threshold that the contracts committee is empowered or has the power to approve without prior approval from GPPA. They can conduct those transactions, and then the requirement is that, number one, your institution will conduct a post-review at the end of the year.
Right.
But before that, there will be monthly returns, if you want to call them, monthly reports being sent in relation to all those transactions.
Right.
The procurements that were being raised and approved by the authority, so that you will perform your oversight function.
Right.
Well, and so if you turn to page 3, with respect to the specific objectives of the procurement review.
Page 3.
Yes, you will see that the fifth point says the objectives, part of it is to make recommendations for improvement in an action plan, which will be followed up within a specific time frame to establish whether these improvements have been implemented. Do you see that?
Yes, yes.
And you have after that to determine the extent to which Massacoco Area Council or any other institution has obtained value for money in executing its procurement functions. Do you see that?
Yes.
And you have the fourth point, to establish whether adequate systems are in place for procurement planning, implementation, and monitoring, and whether reliable documentation is maintained as required by law. So now, these are the objectives of this review. But then generally as well, your oversight function starts mainly from receiving the monthly reports. So in the event you don't receive a monthly report for a month or 2 or 3 before your post review, what steps do you take to address those problems?
Actually, our function to make a clarification begins with the procurement planning and not the monthly reports.
Please proceed.
I just want to make a clarification that our function, oversight function, may begin with the procurement planning, which according to the Act, all procuring organizations shall submit to the authority a procurement plan not later than 15th of January of each year.
Yes.
So this is where it starts. But when it comes to monthly reports, yes, they expect to report to the authority on monthly basis. But then let me also clarify that for area councils that are inland, very far, For some reasons, we have been meeting with them and they express concern or challenges in meeting those requirements, submitting on monthly basis. So we allow them so that they will compile them, and whenever they find it at least more comfortable, somebody is coming like the procurement officer to the office or around the urban areas, they can bring their monthly reports to us. That arrangement was done with them.
The point is, do you have, as a regulatory body, do you have the discretion? If you say you allow them, do you have the discretion to allow them to submit, whenever it suits them?
Well, it's management that sat and agree on that.
Yeah. So if people keeps on giving excuses that they can't meet up with these obligations, the law is there and it is mandatory. That's why I started first by saying over the week that whether it is a discretionary requirement or they must comply with the monthly report. And you are right. Number one, we have discussed this over and over again. If you don't have a procurement plan for a year, we have already said that all of your procurement for that year would be unlawful. We've already dealt with that.
Yes.
But still, your institution will go ahead, even without that. There are no sanctions, there are no steps taken, even procurements being conducted in these area councils, and I believe in most institutions, without any procurement plan, which is mandatory, which you said clearly is a matter of must. You should do it. You don't have an option. But they are given a pass, even without having the plan. There are no reports, there are no complaints they are into the appropriate authority and so on and so forth. But we will address this probably at the end. But for the monthly reports, what would be a proper justification for an area council not to submit these monthly reports?
Actually, at the end of the year, there will be no justification that they cannot justify.
No, at the end of the month. At the end of the month, if they don't submit it, what would you think would be a proper justification for not complying with the act that they should submit this monthly report?
Well, for them, they can justify by saying that, yes, GPPA agreed with us that we can submit lately or later than the required date, because already, like I said earlier, GPPA management have agreed that institutions like the area councils that
now you are part of management.
Yes, I am part of management.
Yes, so for the area councils to convince management that we cannot meet up with this requirement, we cannot submit monthly reports, monthly returns, what do you think would convince you management to grant them freedom to submit at the end of the year, for example?
Actually, it is right that it is not provided for by the law, but then we can also agree that because the monthly reports are just for record purposes. These are transactions that they must have already
I disagree.
conducted.
Do you think it's only for record purposes?
Yes, they are for record purposes and also to make observations and probably monitor. Yes, you are right, but then we feel that since there are these annual procurement reviews and other reviews, we can always see whatever they are doing.
No, but exactly. When you said it's only for record purposes, what do you mean?
Now, these are transactions that have already been conducted.
Yes.
And the assumption would be like they must be conducting them in accordance with the law, unless otherwise. And the otherwise is like when we go out for reviews, those ones that are conducted in accordance with the law will be dealt with. We, of course, will observe them and then
not at the
probably
time when you
draw their attention to that.
Now, we have two areas among many probably that you conduct your oversight function.
Right.
Yes. One is the post review that generates these compliance review reports, which
Yes.
we are dealing with. It happens probably at the end of the year. Is that not correct?
Correct.
And of course, we have explained the transactions that will be reviewed in this process. Now, you have the prior review.
Correct.
Yes. So, what would you say you review in relation to your prior review procedure? Is it not when they make applications for approvals?
Yes.
Where they are supposed to make applications for approvals?
Right.
That's one of it. And the other one is they are also mandated to give monthly reports when they are dealing with a procurement within a certain threshold, which they are allowed to do, but then subject to the fact that they will still send a monthly report at the end of the month.
Right.
Now, the importance of that you will find on page 24. That is the implications. Because if it is only for records purposes, then there would not be any serious implication. But then the implications are, number one, can you read for us?
Page 24.
24. The implications of not complying with the monthly reports.
Implications: misprocurements may go undetected for months.
Let's start with that.
Misprocurement
Yes.
may go undetected for months.
So if they don't follow this requirement, there is a high chance that misprocurement may go undetected for months. I know I've asked you this question again, but again, let's go through it. What is misprocurement?
Now, misprocurement is procurements that are conducted but not in line with what the law provides for.
Exactly. So, and it is important that it is detected at an early stage.
Right.
Why is it important for it to be
So
detected
that
at an early
it will
stage?
not continue again.
So that?
It may not happen again.
But what will you do in that situation when you detect it early? Usually, what would be the normal or natural recourse by your office? When you have a monthly report and you see that there are so many instances wherein the rules have been flouted at will,
Actually,
would you not be in a position to address those, even though you have not been doing that?
Yes, when that is detected, corrective measures will be taken.
May be taken, because you have not been taking corrective measures.
Right.
So let's say may be taken. The idea is, my point is, I'm not trying to discuss as to whether you have been doing that, because we've already passed that. We know for the most part you haven't been taking corrective measures. But for the purpose of the law, the requirement, the idea is so that corrective measures can be taken to kind of avoid similar situations, which will cause further financial loss to the public, to the government, to the country. Is that not correct?
Right.
And the second point will be?
Difficulty for the authority to establish a trend or status of procurement for timely remedial actions.
And what does that mean?
Now here, from the reports, if it is detected that they are not doing the right thing, or if they are doing the right thing, the authority will be able to establish the frequency and the nature of the wrong thing that they are doing.
For example, if they adopt a particular procurement method,
yes,
let's say single sourcing, you have seen it time and again, individuals or suppliers being awarded amounts of contracts way above the threshold, 200,000, 300,000, 400,000, through single sourcing without any regard to regulations or the act. So this point that you have highlighted correctly is trying to say that that trend of following a certain type of procurement for the wrong reasons, without following due process, will be detected early, and remedial actions will be taken. Corrective measures will be taken.
Right.
Expectedly. And the last point is that there is difficulty in monitoring and analyzing the data on post-procurement activities. In fact, this compounds all the 2 points, does it not? Compound the 2 points, kind of, are you following?
Yes, I'm following.
Yes, so please tell us, when you say there is difficulty in monitoring and analyzing the data on post-procurement activities, what do you mean?
Now, this means that when, for example, one of the reasons, as I said earlier, for reporting on monthly basis is to collect data. Because one of our functions as an authority is also to, of course, provide any data to government for decision making and the like. So if such data is not coming in time or is not also provided or wrong data is being provided, obviously, it may affect the institution's future plans, but will also affect the whole country in terms of getting the correct data. And of course, planning is also dependent on
this
data
point,
available.
In my opinion, this point is more than what you are saying. What it is saying here is that when you don't enforce this monthly reports, these requirements, there are very serious implications therein. Number one, misprocurement may go undetected.
Yes.
Several unlawful and illegal activities may be going on in relation to procurement, which you will not know on time or at a very early stage. And therefore,
right,
you may be limited in the way you will address these issues. The second point as well is more or less the same, that a
for you to elaborate. I think I agree with what Council is simply explaining on point 3, because the reviews are done after the activity. So
yes,
if that is the reason why the law has provided that there should be monthly report, and it's mandatory, so that since the law is requiring you to do a post-review, that is after the activity, if you are in receipt of these reports monthly, by the time you go to do your reviews at the end of the year, you could have stopped the non-compliance of so many of the activities. Is that not the situation?
right.
Yes. So, in other words, I'm just trying to buttress what Council is saying, that point 3 is just more than what you are explaining. It is saying that basically the reason why the law is saying that you must do post review, and if you look at the trend in all the municipalities, instead of them accepting to use proper procedure, they are using single sourcing, because there is no action that there is no reprimand at the end of your review, because it is after the fact. You could see from the report there is a high trend that is recurrent in all the reports, that all their activities are done through single source. And the authority is very clear on the fact that single source is prone to fraud, is prone to bias, is prone to sourcing goods and services for no value, is prone to making government lose money, and not also paying tax. So these are all the issues embedded in using single source method of procurement in terms of challenges and difficulties. Is that not the situation?
Correct.
All right. I think this is a convenient point to stop. We will come back by 2:30 for us to continue. We'll go for lunch and prayers. Thank you. We may rise.